I'm sorry, you haven't drafted well. It's hard then for me to assume that after years of you not drafting well, that suddenly you have. Especially when you have limited picks, especially when, some rather obvious team needs were not addressed. So if you're hearing skepticism, if you're hearing cynicism, if you're hearing outright anger at what the Bengals have done during the draft, I don't think those things are aimed at the players. Like, I'm all in on Shamar Stewart. Let's go. Get after the passer. The sacks will come. And I love everything I'm hearing about Dylan Fairchild. And Taj Brooks is my favorite pick in this draft for the Bengals. Now, I will also acknowledge I wish they would have taken a defensive tackle somewhere. I don't know that taking 2 offensive linemen was the play. I don't know that taking 2 linebackers was the play when you had other needs. That's nothing against Barrett Carter. That's nothing against anybody the Bengals have taken in this draft. This front office has earned skepticism. So when there are some things that weren't done and positions that weren't addressed and some directions that weren't taken, like trading down, like adding a pick, like taking a defensive tackle, like taking a safety, that just fuels already built-in skepticism that if you're Duke Tobin, I'm sorry, you have earned. Trusting the Bengals in the draft is like trusting me to tell you how good these guys are. I'm not the guy to do that. That's why we call Joe Goodberry. That's why we call our guy Jordan Edwards yesterday. It's why we called Ryan Roberts on Monday. I'm not the guy to do that. I can tell you what they needed last year. I can tell you what they lacked last year because I watched the games and so did you. I could also tell you the Bengals' recent drafts haven't been awesome. This year's draft, we all agreed coming in, has to be pretty damn close to awesome. So, to be honest, pretty much anything they did, anything they could have done, they could have added picks and had like as many as 9. They could have taken 6 different players. They could have taken 2 defensive tackles. No matter what they did, there was going to be a certain degree of skepticism because of their recent history. But when you take their recent history and you add to it positions that they didn't address, and you add to it the very real belief that they could have traded down and maybe gotten players that are either comparable to the ones the Bengals took or the actual players the Bengals took, you're going to have even more skepticism. The Cincinnati Bengals, despite 4 consecutive winning seasons, despite doing some good things, despite Duke Tobin having been the guy who put together the 21 and 22 teams, they have earned skepticism. That only goes away, at least as it relates to the draft. It only goes away when the draft classes yield a lot of players, a lot of cornerstones, a lot of guys worth investing in a second time. One of the reasons why it made sense to give T. Higgins his contract was there's nobody else to pay. There was nobody else to sign. Why is that? Because the Bengals haven't drafted well. So when you're the team that hasn't drafted well, and in the draft this year, you leave positions unaddressed, you don't add picks when maybe you could have, and you take some players that have some question marks, not in terms of their character, of course, but just in terms of production or age or experience or fit. Sorry, that built-in skepticism is only going to be amplified.